and we want people to get a chance to see the candidate. All right, 10th or the now I'm getting getting tied up here.
Yeah.
Second judicial district.
Yes.
So you have an opponent. You have a single opponent. You don't have 24 opponents.
No,
like,
I do not.
Like Chris Penwell does. You have a single opponent. Your opponent is?
Judge William Leary III.
Bill Leary III. And without putting you on the spot, if people are cognizant of some of our past shows and some of the discussions we've had about Mr. Leary, that's why we're looking for a new judge down in Ramsey County. What are the issues that, give us a little background, share your background with the people and why you got involved.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank you for inviting me on at the spur of the moment, literally on the street pounding in a lawn sign. So I don't have any prepared remarks, but I'll try to address some of the issues and concerns that I think are important in this election. It is difficult to get the word out there, and so I really appreciate this opportunity. I've been practicing law for over 18 years now. Most of my experience has been protecting the rights of the citizens of Ramsey County working at the Public Defender's Office. We represent the indigent who are charged with crimes, can't afford to hire attorneys. We represent people who receive disability, Social Security, unemployment, the unemployed and the underemployed. And we make sure that their rights are protected in court and that they get their fair day in court even though they can't afford to hire an attorney. We have a staff of between 40 to 50 lawyers, and we have some very good attorneys on our staff. So I've been proud to be a public servant for the citizens of Ramsey County in that function. I did do 2.5 years of civil litigation experience in the middle of my career in the mid-90s. Wanted to branch out and see what that was like, and discovered I really missed the courtroom, and I missed doing trials and the day-to-day interaction with the public. So I went back to the Public Defender's Office, where I've been a managing attorney now since 1998. So I do have a good deal of administrative experience as well, which I think lends itself well to running a courtroom, dealing with court staff, dealing with other agencies. I think good administration is a skill that a good judge should have.
See, and Connie, with that statement about running the courtroom, that what my perspective, being in the court so often and watching how the judiciary operates, to me, the judge's job is to keep the order, to just administer the courtroom, not to impose their brand of law. That's up to the jury, and then you have the defense and the prosecution. And other than that, I've watched these judges go so far over with their court rules and case law, like I always say, and I want judges that are constrained by their position. What's your feeling? I mean, the other part of it is, people, you have to understand here that Connie is unusual in that there's this kind of unwritten code that you shall not run against an incumbent judge. That's why in the 10th district, where there's no incumbent, you see 24 challengers, candidates for that position. That shows you that there's plenty of qualified people out there that are willing to run for election and are willing to stand for the scrutiny of the people. But how often do you see somebody run against an incumbent? As important as that is, this challenge should be there all the time. And so many of the attorneys that I've talked to worry about compromising their clients if they're not successful in the election and have to now represent their client before the judge that they ran against. So coming out of the public defender's office, it's not quite as bad, but touch on that.
Well, it is true. Hardly anyone ever runs against an incumbent. It is almost an unwritten rule that you just don't challenge a seated judge. If you look at the ballot in Ramsey County alone, there are 12 other incumbents with no one running against them. When Judge Leary was appointed in 2002, he was appointed to fill out a vacant term from a judge who had retired. That only lasted 2 years. He was then up for re-election again in 2004, but no one ran against him. So when he says he actually has been elected by the people, that's kind of misleading, because no one ever ran against him, because hardly anyone ever does that. I know what a challenge that is, and it's been a lot of hard work. I've been out talking to people. I've done your parades, your festivals. I've knocked on lots of your doors. I was doing that tonight.
You've done public access television.
Yes.
You've allowed come on live shows, allow people to call in with questions if they choose.
Exactly, because I think it is important that people do elect their own judges. Judges owe a duty to citizens who elect them to make sure that justice is achieved in the courtroom, to make sure that the resources that are given to the judiciary are used wisely and efficiently. There's a huge backlog of cases in pretty much every court, including Ramsey County. People are waiting for their turn at trial because things aren't being run efficiently. Judges should be a referee of the courtroom. Lawyers try a case before a jury. The judge acts as a referee between those parties, makes rulings on evidence issues, and then ultimately, if convicted, hands down a sentence. Judges aren't supposed to engage in plea negotiations, and their role should be limited to upholding the law and imposing a sentence if that's what the outcome is.
And especially not engage in ex parte communications with one of the parties. And
exactly.
Explain to people what ex parte communications are.
Ex parte is one of those fancy Latin terms that the law seems to like that have been left over. Ex parte means outside of the hearing of the other party. So every suit, whether it's civil or criminal, has two parties involved, or at least two parties. In the criminal world, it's the defendant, so the defense attorney, and then the prosecution. You are not, an attorney is not to contact the judge without the knowledge and the presence of the other party.
Nor is the judge supposed to allow that.
Exactly, and a good judge knows that. So if a lawyer calls, unless it's something for a simple scheduling reason, that is the only reason why a judge should be talking to an attorney without the knowledge and the presence of the opponent, the opposing attorney.
Now, the caller previous asked that we get you to answer the same question of where you stand on the people's right to elect judges or having the political elite appoint their judges. And of course, just the way I state that question. But, you know, we don't make any... I don't pretend to be one of those hosts that's an empty vessel and insult my viewers by saying that there are God-made people that do not have opinions. All people have opinions. I just am honest and put my opinions out there.
And I appreciate that. Obviously, I believe in judicial elections. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. I am running against one of those appointed officials. I think citizens have the right and the duty to find out more about judicial elections, to find out more about the candidates, especially in this day and age with the internet available. I have a website available. There are articles in the newspaper all of the time. The information is out there. Judges should be elected by the citizens, and I firmly believe that that is the only way judges should be elected. Now, needless to say, the Commission on Judicial Selection has made some good choices. I'm not saying that the people selected by them are always not the appropriate choices. Some of the judges on the bench who are appointed are great judges. They do a good job, and and it's a pleasure appearing in front of them. But I think that to do away with election of judges completely simply takes away the rights of citizens who have the wherewithal. They're smart enough, they can figure this out, and they have a right to elect their own officials, including judges.
Well, what infuriates me, Connie, is the idea that these judges retire not at the end of the election cycle, but before, so there's an appointment. So they steal away from the citizens their right to select, to vote and select their judges. Therefore, the appointed judge becomes the incumbent. Therefore, the system is built around you don't run against incumbent judges. So yes, so that is advantage. We have a phone call. You want to take a phone call?
Sure.
Caller, are you with us? Question or comment?
Yes, I have a comment, a couple actually. I really think you're a very good interviewer, Bob. I enjoy that. I'd like to hear a little bit more from your guest, though, and specifically on what she thinks of case law over constitutional issues. And I really appreciate the show. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get the...
Yes. I, of course, believe the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Whether it's the U.S. Constitution or the Minnesota Constitution, I believe they are the supreme law of the land. The Constitution is unique in that it was written hundreds of years ago, but the same principles can apply, and they evolve, and they continue to be relevant to this day. For instance, search and seizure started out with, you can't go in someone's home. Well, now it's evolved to include law regarding automobiles and movable things. It's now
A briefcase.
A briefcase. The internet itself, your computer, that data that goes out over the airwaves and things like that. So I think the Constitution is a living document, and I'm glad that it was written in a way that we can continue to have the same Constitution, which I think leads to stability in our government. So.
Living to the extent that as new technologies or come on board, that the same law encompasses them, but not living in the extent that we redetermine what a particular article is about.
Exactly. Search and seizure protects a person's right to privacy. And privacy exists in many forms, not just in your home anymore, because people do move out and about. They stay in hotels. They have briefcases. They use their computers. All of those things. It's still that basic right to privacy that a person has.
Let's get the camera out here and pull up on your or on your literature here and. www.ConnieIversonforJudge.com. ConnieIverson. All one word. Connie Iverson for Judge. I sure hope you're successful. We've had many discussions on this show about your opponent, and I can't say that they were good discussions. We've had many real issues with what's gone on in his courtroom. So I know you're constrained, whereas we exercise the freedom of press on this show.
Okay.
Connie?
I would just like to say that
Thank you.
I appreciate this opportunity, and I did pick Judge Leary to run against for a specific reason. There was a recent article in the Pioneer Press that said critics have described Leary as a judge who throws his weight around and fails to treat his fellow professionals with respect. That is one of the main reasons why I am running against him.
And I agree with you. I've not only read that in the paper, but have sat in his courtroom and firsthand seen that direct observation. And we've talked about that here. So. Highly recommend people put a new judge in there. Let's get our judiciary back on track. And so, Connie Iverson, in the 2nd, and Chris Penwell in the 10th.